questions on any other issues that you have?
So what are you kind of looking forward to this year on the Aurora City Council? What are some things that you want to get done personally? What are some things that you can work on, reaching across the aisle, bipartisan stuff? What are some things that you're pessimistic about? What are some things you're optimistic about? Aside from fighting crime, what is most important to you this year on the Aurora City Council?
So Monday night, I'm bringing a proposal before the City Council for a vote that will be an opt-in to what we call, it's Initiative 108 or Amendment 123, which is on affordable housing. And so that has a number of, so there's monies available from the state that are mandated from the initiative that a local government can be eligible for if they meet a number of criteria, such as increasing the number of affordable housing units year after year. I think that sets us on the right path on affordable housing, and so I'm very excited about that, and I believe that will pass. I think on water conservation, Aurora has been a leader on water conservation. And in fact, last week I addressed the Colorado Water Congress, a statewide meeting that was in Aurora at our conference center on Colfax at the Hyatt Regency about what Aurora has done. And I think it's very important given the challenges in the Colorado River Basin, some of the other challenges in terms of the availability of water, that we'd be fairly aggressive in water conservation. And part of that is the reuse of water that Aurora is also a leader of in terms of the Prairie Waters Project. So I'm very proud of what we've done there. I think crime is always a big issue, I think, and I think you touched on that. But I think in terms of making sure we have a fully staffed police force, obviously we're going through the consent decree process, and I think that's important. Then, but I think just like the three mayors have gotten together in terms of that agenda, I think it's important that the governor supports to try and get that through the legislature. So that's why I mentioned I'll be at that press conference on Monday with State Senator Rachel Zinzinger. I'm trying to think of what. I think those are the big drivers of our economy are the base and healthcare. I think hospitality is the third, but I think that's going fairly well. But in the base, I think we have a big threat.
What do you mean by base? The military base?
Military base.
Okay.
So the base has a number of different mission sets. But in terms of the flying mission, that the aircraft that we have in the Colorado Air National Guard are being phased out. And so they will reach the aircraft will start to reach the end of their service life in 2028. The first aircraft will then, the F-16s will reach their end of their service life. Unless we get a replacement aircraft, then a lot of the Air National Guard goes away, which has not only an impact, in my view, national security, but to the local economy, and obviously to the Air National Guard. Then the other, at least, we're going to be voting on a resolution to support the flying mission. The City Council will be voting on a resolution that I'll bring forward that will support the flying mission at the base that the Air National Guard would like to have. On the Ansys Medical Campus, I think there's tremendous opportunities there, and my goal is to make sure that we are competitive nationally and internationally in terms of healthcare research. And so it's an extraordinary campus with 3 hospitals, with healthcare education, educating the next generation of medical professionals. And then on Montview, in the campus, everything north of Montview is research. And so that's a Fitzsimmons Innovation Community. So I've just become the chairman of the board of directors for the Fitzsimmons Innovation Community. And so I just think that, we have a lot of opportunity to really be a center for healthcare research. And so it's really driving that to make sure that we have the right environment to do that. Chancellor, University of Colorado, CU Medical, CU Anschutz Medical Campus, Don Elliman, he's the chancellor of the campus for CU. I'm taking his place, and he'll become the vice chairman. So we'll work together to really move the campus forward. I see a lot of opportunity for growth on the campus, and I think it's exciting in terms of really having that in the city of Aurora. Yeah.
I was wondering, in addition to the club suggestion, are there any other recommendations for anti-theft for cars, just generally?
The little switch on your door that locks, we recommend putting that down or so it doesn't show red, always lock your car. That's, auto thieves would much rather just be able to open up the door to get in the car to do what they need to do rather than have to get in the car. I think like this young man said here, it's very easy to steal a car now. It's all on YouTube, so they learn it very quickly. So, but a club is actually the best thing you can do to just try to get that visual deterrent. Please don't leave your firearms in cars. It's the number one way firearms are stolen. They leave them in cars, the car gets stolen, and then the process just keeps on going down. And try not to leave your brand new Gucci purse in the front seat or your laptop in the front seat. You know, they look for that stuff. It's easy pickings to be able to take that. But no, that's
Where do you get this club thing you're talking about?
yeah, Walmart, Target, anything. It's in the auto parts store. They're about this long, and they just lock onto the steering wheel. They have a big tail that sticks out the steel, so you can't turn the steering wheel without tearing up the car. I'm not saying it's foolproof, because all you gotta do is cut the steering wheel, and you can just pull it right off, but it's a deterrent. If they want it, unfortunately, they'll get it.
Yes.
Yeah, Mike, first of all, thanks to you and the chief for your leadership. I've been a part-time resident for the last 6-7 years. I'm a full-time resident now of Aurora, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on the homelessness. I was kind of surprised, being the first winter that I've spent here. It almost seems like it's expanded and become a bigger issue than even in the summertime when I've spent a lot of time here. And I know you've done a lot of work on this and are working on it, but just kind of an update.
Sure. I think one thing I just passed a resolution in the city council that we will build a navigation, what's called a navigation center.
Yep.
That'll have 3 component parts to it. To be in the vicinity of 32nd and Chambers Road. But we are making, so we have commitments now from Adams County, Arapahoe County, Douglas County, and then of course the city of Aurora to fund its capital construction. We are now going to be soliciting the state for they've set money aside for their assistance in building this particular facility. We have 3 component parts to it. The first part will be what I call low barrier emergency shelter for people that just come in. They may have no intention of participating in programs, but we're obviously going to try and get them into case management. Then there's a second and a third part. And the second part is for people participating in programs, whether it's addiction recovery, whether it's mental health, job training. And then the third part is what we call probably transitional housing. And it's those people that are working but need some assistance, but they're on the road to self-sufficiency. But it is, in addition to that, I think probably some of our largest challenges, let me just back up. I'm working on a program for single-parent families that are on the borderline of becoming homeless. How can we intervene in their lives to keep them working, to keep them housed before they fall into homelessness? Because once they fall into homelessness, it's very difficult. And so we have some temporary federal dollars we're using for that, but they're going to expire. And so I'm working on a program, probably focus on it because it'll be the next session of the legislature. So in January, so hope to draft it this summer, vet it this fall, and then have it introduced in the legislature in January that will provide funding for that type of intervention for those families. There, unfortunately, a lot of homelessness is addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're working with the state on a program that was the former Ridgeview Academy was a campus run for the Division of Youth Services for young males that had some altercation with the criminal justice system, with criminal justice involved. And it had a school, food service, 500-bed facility. The Division of Youth Services felt that they had another direction they wanted to take. They thought that intervention was too severe. They wanted to see if they could keep children at home, as opposed to institutionalize there, or keep them in foster families. And so they eventually closed that facility. And so now we're trying to rework it. It actually doesn't take a whole lot to make it it will be state run. We have skin in the game in terms of our federal ARPA dollars, but it will be state run, and it will be a long-term program for people with very severe addiction problems that have been chronically homeless as a result of their addictions. And so it is, once somebody, meth, even alcohol, now fentanyl, highly addictive, very difficult. It's not a short-term solution. I did meet with a woman who was on the streets for years and was addicted to meth and had to give up her children to foster care. Was living in a van. The van got repossessed. She was actually living on the street in the vicinity of I-70 in Peoria. And even at times sleeping on the ledge. If you've seen those ledges right under the underpass. And in her story, how difficult it was. She went through 3 different programs and relapsed 3 different times. And these were not long-term programs. Relapsed, and then she was involved in property crime, prostitution, and then got sentenced, got arrested, sentenced, Adams County jail for 5 months. And so I said, well, and she goes, that's where I got sober. I said, well, it's because you couldn't get drugs? And I said, no. And she said, no. I'm thinking, that's right. She could get drugs in jail. But that, she was able to get sober, and then she had a religious conversion. But in and of itself, really what that was about, in my view, I think there was a spiritual component to it, but it created a network for her of people that were supportive. And that she fell into when she got out of jail, which was very positive. Because what was always happening before was the only people she knew were people that were users. And so eventually she would go, and it only took one time to relapse, to try to do it one time to relapse. And so, and then she went through a program at Denver Rescue Mission, where they gave her a place to stay and gave her job training. She went through a job training program through the American Hospitality, I can't remember what the full name of it is. And now she works at the Gaylord Hotel. The Gaylord Hotel and Resort Conference Center. And has been sober now for a couple of years. And, very happy with the work.
Hi, I'd like to kind of piggyback on the homeless situation. I travel Parker and Peoria area near 9 Mile every day, and the tents that have been continuous for like 2 years now, they're even there now, and it's freezing. And it's the exit from 225 coming down, and then even going on 225 going southbound. There's a whole community of them. Yeah. I know you're trying, and I don't know what the procedure is specifically to give them, like the warnings and stuff, but also the people that are wearing dark clothing and standing on the median.
Right.
And then they're coming off the median, and it's dangerous for them. And the
Sure.
trash and the bicycles that are near there, and there are also supposed to be signs in certain intersections, and I know there's one at Mississippi and Havana, where it says, instead of
Please don't
giving
give,
things
yeah.
out, where to donate.
Right.
I've worked for Family Promise at Temple Emmanuel years before COVID hit, and we housed families, which was wonderful. They go from church to our synagogue, and they have kids, and the kids go to school, the parents go to work. So I'm interested in helping, but that it's such an
Yeah.
eyesore. I don't know.
So that area by Cherry Creek Reservoir is very different because we don't have jurisdiction over it. So that's when you get on the I guess you would say, well, the same side of Parker as the as that state park is. It's kind of a hodgepodge of jurisdiction, but none of it's municipally owned property. So what I have to always say, I talk to the governor about it. So because a lot of it's state park land, Cherry Creek State Park, and then some of it's Army Corps of Engineers because it's flood control. And so we've been trying to work with them to they have cleaned it up some, but I think when the message is out that it's not done very often, people tend to congregate there, and so that's the problem right now.
But it's right on Park Road. It's not really within the park. It's right.
No, it's on the outside of the fence, but that's still their land. Yeah, but we don't have jurisdiction.
But even the
Yeah.
intersection, I think at
Mhm.
Parker and
Well, they come
225.
onto the work the intersection, yeah. Yeah.
Well, first I just want to thank you for hitting on the topic of addiction, because I understand how complex that is, not from personal experience, but just seeing it around. I'm over by like Aurora Community College, like very close over by here, and right along like the Highland Canal, but specifically that West Tollgate area. And my question is when my dog and I have been walking, we've nearly stepped on probably 4 needles at this point.
Yeah.
So I tried to call in to the non-emergency Aurora police line, and I think they eventually came. They gathered like a big bunch of shopping carts, but there was a whole box of about 20 needles that were used that was left by just right kind of by the bike path. So what is a sufficient way of us as citizens to call something like that in? How do we report it? How can we?
Well, I think if you go to Access Aurora, you're there, and then report it there, and then if it's not taken care of, then just contact me. And the best way to contact me is directly, I have an email address that goes directly to me, and it's mcoffman, COFFMAN, @auroragov.org.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just was wondering, Mayor, is there something you could speak to the homeowners close to Lowry Ranch about this new oil and gas development fracking thing that's coming?
Yeah, I met with staff on it on Friday. They're working on a draft analysis of it to me. So this is a oil and gas development that is occurring under Aurora. It's I guess slant or horizontal drilling. But the challenge that we have is under Colorado law, we don't have jurisdiction because what we have jurisdiction is the surface aspects of it. The surface aspects are outside of Aurora. However, they may be proximate to where we may be able to comment on that. But we don't have direct jurisdiction, comment on to the COGCC, Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission. But the local governments have jurisdiction, but only on the surface aspects. The state has jurisdiction underneath.
Years ago during the campaign, there was some discussion about developing smart traffic systems. Has there been any work on that?
The question is about developing smart traffic systems, and some work has been, there's still more to do, but some work has been done on. And what that is if you look at signalization, it sort of comports to traffic flows to where in high volume traffic can be longer than low volume traffic. But let me, that's a good question, and let me, I'll post that, and I'd be happy to get back to you to see where we go right now. Yeah.
Has there been money allocated in this year's budget for a police station to be built in the northeast center corner of Aurora?
We've got a number of, northeast corner, where do you refer?
Gaylord area,
Yeah.
Highlands.
There.
Aurora Highlands area. I'm sure
We don't have-
I'd have to check and see in the plans, but there's no money allocated in the budget for it because it's too far out there. I mean, in terms
It's
of
in Aurora.
It's in Aurora, but when I mean too far out there from being developed. Right now, the building is starting to slow down because of interest rates and because of demand. But I'm sure there'll be a substation at some point in time that we
Yeah,
want that.
should be one there.
Because I think it's about, well, there's just not that much development out there yet.
I'll tell you, the police department is looking at designs, you know, the District 4, we're trying to think about it. A District 4, a new dispatch center, because we've outgrown our dispatch center, we need a new property bureau. Maybe we could do a whole compound
Right.
up there.
Right.
But it's.
Well, what the developer would like to do, and he has plans, he does have plans for a building that he calls a government center. And in that government center, there would be a number of government-related services, everything from courts to, we're trying to, so I've asked the city manager now to solicit all the departments to see if they would be willing, who would be wanting to have a physical presence at the government center that he proposes. So I haven't got that survey back yet to see who will be there.
But it's in the process of
Right.
getting there. Just
It's in the
take-
process. I mean, quite frankly, I think that I'm not sure we need probably a substation, but I'm not sure we need the other services. I think probably more focus on library and cultural services would be a little bit better. Yeah.
So in line with that next question about the smart traffic systems, in terms of the BRT that's supposed to be going around Colfax, from our understanding, the most recent development's been that it's going to Yosemite, which is kind of close to the Denver-Aurora border. Has there been any more discussions on potentially having more of the BRT itself, not just the bus running through Colfax and Aurora?
Yeah, so we're involved in, with Denver, because really to get federal approval, you really need to tie into an interstate. And so we are proposing that Aurora also be part of the BRT, but it will probably be I don't expect it to be the same. And the reason why I probably don't expect it to be the same is because Denver has, if you look at Denver, it's got one-way major arterials north and south of Colfax. Well, we don't have, ours kind of fits and starts. So we don't have that. So we're going to have to adjust some for that, but we will be a part of the system. And we have appropriated the money for that to be part of it. Any other questions? Yes.
I know I come back to you, but we're over kind of park, you have the homeless camp in there. And when I put in the complaint to Access Aurora, they sent me an email back that says everything's taken care of. When I was sitting there looking right at it, people still coming and going. I know I contacted.
Is it still there now?
Yeah.
I've experienced that too.
Yeah, and it's,
Okay.
and then pile up trash, and for our neighborhood, that's the only place really in our little area
Okay.
to go, and there's a ton of older people and, very senior citizens.
I'll try and find it, because I've got a lot of complaints about Access Aurora,
Yeah.
that somehow it just doesn't get to the right place.
Yeah, we've talked to a couple city employees,
Okay.
but what I guess annoying was that they emailed us back and said it was taken care of.
But it
They
wasn't,
get nothing.
okay.
So,
Okay.
and another thing.
Stay around afterwards if I can talk to you about that.
When you were talking about auto theft, if you talk to your mechanics, they put kill switches onto your cars, whether it's a toggle switch, you turn on your high beam when you start the car. It just makes it a little bit harder and it's really not that expensive to do, especially on the older vehicles.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think it's amazing how much the fact that the majority of vehicles are used to commit other crimes. I was at a small liquor store owner, an Ethiopian immigrant. I'm trying to remember, can't quite remember the exact address.
Next to one tower.
Where was?
Or out by the tower.
Yes, okay. And So he had the video footage in front of us, filming the incident, and you had a stolen Hummer, right? Stolen Hummer did the first, crashed into the front of the store, and then you had another vehicle, I think a stolen truck, wrapped a chain around, a heavy metal chain around the ATM machine and pulled it out. It's amazing, just amazing. Any other questions? Okay. Yes.
Okay, so affordable housing, I was at Crystal Murillo's town hall the other night, and she said that the state overrides the city on policies around affordable housing, but then you have the United Development Ordinance, which covers kind of policy around zoning and that kind of thing, right? So my question to you is, so you have the charter and then you have the city code.
I don't think the state I don't think the state overrides us. I
Oh.
think the state is debating whether to override us. And I'm on land use issues. My position with the governor is really that I think the priority, let us get 108 done first. Let us get that, let's see where the dust settles on that, on affordable housing. And so he's got his plan, but that was already passed by the voters. And so, but we already have there's already a lot of flexibility in what we can do at the local.
Okay, so if you pass something at the local level and it doesn't abide by what the state says in terms of zoning laws or anything around affordable housing, what's the worst thing that could happen to you?
First of all, I think that's what the governor's looking at doing.
Oh, okay.
Right now, those issues, land use is local control.
Oh.
So there are some regulations from the state, but there's not that many. So things like the density issues and things like that are controlled by local government. I think that the water conservation proposal that I put forward will change a lot in the way we develop, and it will cause, I think, higher densities. I mean, this may sound draconian, and some of you aren't going to like this and think it's too heavy-handed, but we're in a very difficult situation, and this applies to all new development. All new development, there's what we call cool weather turf, which is like Kentucky bluegrass that uses a lot of water, which is a traditional grass that we use. Under the ordinance that I put forward, you can't have any in the front yard. You can't have any in the backyard. You're limited to 500 square feet or 45% of the backyard, whatever's less. Nothing in the medians. All new construction in terms of commercial property. You can only have turf, this cool weather turf, this Kentucky bluegrass, if it's functional, i.e. it's an athletic field, but it can't be there for aesthetic purposes. No ornamental water features. I mean, we're in a different environment now, and we have to recognize that. But that's going to actually influence the way we grow prospectively, and I think you'll see greater density in housing versus the really spread out single-family detached homes. Okay, I want to thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it. And if anybody, I'm going to stick around if you have any specific questions. And for people that had questions about specific information that I didn't have, if you could please remind me, and so I can look it up and get back to you.